breaking into tech. I didn't have a degree in computer science. I didn't learn all of the principles of computing before I just started making things. I just started making things because they solved solutions that I had, like because I didn't know any of the terminology. I didn't know what types of questions were going to be asked.
There's a lot of people giving 50, 60, 70%. And
that they're not passionate about, that it doesn't fill up their tank. It doesn't drive them to, if you're giving 50% at your career now, if you know that there's something else that you could be giving 100% at, why not try it? I have challenging days and I have problems that are given to me where I kind of have to bang my head against the wall. Being knocked on your ass and feeling like I was on rock bottom was the start of lighting that fire inside of me to do everything I can to make it.
Welcome to another episode of the newly branded A1 Agents, which we are now calling the A1 Experience. I've got my good friend, my brother, my buddy, Jon Miller. What's up, bro?
How's it going, man? It's good to be here.
Man, I'm having
my first time in your office.
Yeah. You had to ask me for my address.
This is a long way from having one little baby mic hooked up to my laptop and four of us all talking into the same one.
We had a podcast in our spare bedroom way back in the day.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know Jon Miller is a curious Las Vegas native and UNLV alumni who worked with me in banking for several years before becoming a buff and strong powerlifter that set powerlifting records for his weight of at 181. Around that time, Jon and I co-created our apparel and podcast brand named Barbells and Briefcases. Jon has reinvented himself numerous times, going from banker to operations manager to personal trainer to now software engineer. Jon is simply just a good human being. He's one of my best friends, and I'm excited to share this space with him. The first question I have for you, bro, is why does the Ted Lasso quote, "Be curious, not judgmental," mean so much to you?
Geez, I didn't know you were going to start right off the bat with the Ted Lasso quote. I like that. You're going to throw some Ted Lasso at me.
Yeah, bro.
Be curious, not judgmental is huge to me. It's been huge to our relationship. Back during COVID times, there was when we had a lot of arguments and there was a lot of strain in our relationship. And I thought about when Ted Lasso came into my life and that quote of "be curious, not judgmental" had a meaning of, instead of making an assumption of somebody or anybody based on, what you think they are, try and figure out why and try and figure out, because in the grand scheme of things, we're all just, trying to do our best, wanting to do best for others and things like that. So I think, if you're being curious about, why they want to help the world in that way or why they think that that's the best reason, there's nothing wrong with learning about them and learning new ways and new perspectives.
Yeah. You've had that sticker on your laptop, the front of your laptop, for the longest time.
Yeah.
I first read it. I haven't watched Ted Lasso up until that point, and so I didn't even know where it was from. Mm-hmm. So I definitely wanted to start us off with that. There was a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
A lot of disagreement in 2020. I think it all started there. And you and I have, lived together. We've we kind of come from different points of views, but I've always appreciated your devil's advocate-ness. You always get me to kind of look at something a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. You also hear me out. You hear me out and kind of hear my thoughts on things.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you leveled up and around from so many different industries? Like I said, when I first met you, we were bankers, mm-hmm. and that's when we became friends.
Right.
And we hung out 7 days a week. And you've jumped from random industries. I went from banking to insurance. You went from different industries to different industries. And just talk about that.
Yeah. I always tell people that in my field now that how I got into tech was very non-traditional. And if you would have told me, and before I was in tech, I was a personal trainer. And as a personal trainer, if you'd have told me from age 30 to 35, I was a personal trainer. If you'd have told me at 25 that I was going to be a personal trainer when I was 160 pounds soaking wet and the only time I ever went into a gym was to play basketball, if you'd have told me I would have been a personal trainer 5 years from then, I would have thought you were crazy. And then if 5 years before that, if you had told me at 20 years old when I was in college and I was a bank teller and I was broke and I hated banking and I couldn't wait to graduate and do something more meaningful, that I was going to be in banking 10 years later, that I would have told you were crazy then.
Yeah.
And So every like leap that I made or every change that I made in my career, I don't know why at any point why whenever I knew I was done with a field, I was just like, all right, on to the next thing. And I kind of followed my heart and followed my path to that. But I was never afraid to be like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready to do the next thing and make that leap. And I think for a lot of people, the fear of the unknown and the fear of, what if I fail in the next thing is so big that they don't even try. And for me, I was more concerned with every time I was scared about that I'm going to be miserable right where I am, like if I don't do anything. So the unknown is way better than being miserable where I am.
I'd rather step into something I know nothing about than just stay.
Yeah, I just reread one of my favorite books that I reread every year. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? And a big quote in that book is, what would you do if fear was out of the equation? Always taking that leap and into something that you're at least passionate about, and that that you'll give, if you're giving 50% at your career now, if you know that there's something else that you could be giving 100% at, why not try it?
Yeah, that's some fire right there. Yeah. There's a lot of people giving 50, 60, 70% in something.
That they're not passionate about, that it doesn't fill up their tank. It doesn't drive them to whatever.
Yeah.
Like tech things, like for me, have always been kind of like a driving thing. And it was always something that was kind of in the back of my head. Like when I was in college, I had a side business where I would mod my friends' Xboxes for them, where I would like take it apart, hook it up to my computer, load up hacked software onto it so that people could play burn games. And then I would charge them to mod the Xbox, and I would charge them for each game that I would burn for them so that the Xboxes could play burn games. And that was like my side hustle when I was in college. And I was doing it and not even thinking that like technical and working with computers could just be a thing, because I was a business major, and I just knew that I wanted to be a business owner and continue in that, and didn't even think about it. And then when we had Barbells and Barbells needed a website, instead of hiring somebody, I just had started making websites and learned how to make a website. And that turned out to be the first project on my portfolio that I would show people when I was trying to get an interview and trying to talk to people about my experience in tech. And it turned out to be one of the biggest blessings that's currently in my life right now.
Yeah.
So it's cool that...
It's funny. I think about when you were burning those CDs and modding those Xboxes, you definitely probably weren't, just knowing you weren't doing that for the money. You were just doing it for like the high of like, modding the Xboxes.
It was fun to do. It was so much fun to just take something apart, do all the nerdy hacking stuff onto it, and then being able to show my friends, like, look at this little like hustle that I got. Look how this little scam that we got going, and things like that. It was just
that. So when did you, besides that experience, when did you know that you could potentially be a software engineer? Because I guess that was always ringing in the back of your mind.
It was. Well, and being like the tech guy for Barbells definitely made that ring louder, because I was the one that was producing all the laptops on my computer. I was running the website. I was doing everything on the technical side. And then COVID happened. And for a lot of people, COVID was, everybody's at home. You can't go anywhere. I'm going to chill. I'm going to binge on Netflix. I'm going to just, enjoy getting this free check from the government as long as I have, and just not work at all. And I took that gift of time that was given to me, like it was given to everybody else, as a chance to learn something and be like, okay, I was kind of like feeling like my time as a trainer was nearing its end, because it turned out being a trainer was more of a sales job than I probably thought it was. And I wasn't as good of a salesman as I thought I was. I'm way more introverted, and I'm not that type of pushy salesperson. And so I was like, this is my one opportunity. I have all this time. Like, if there's ever going to be a chance for me to give this tech thing a go, let's do it. And so I started tinkering around with Swift, which is the coding language for Apple's iPhones and things like that. And within a few months, I had published an iPhone app. And that, lo and behold, became the second project on my portfolio. From there, I started I started revising my resume. I started looking up people on Twitter that were in tech, that were helping people get into the industry. I started looking up boot camps and things like that. I came across a cloud computing boot camp that ended up getting me my first job. There's a lot of steps in between there. Like there was probably 9 months of me applying and studying for interviews and getting a recruiter interview, that first call, getting told no a few times there, to getting a first interview with a hiring manager and getting turned down there, to getting your first technical interview where you sit down with somebody, you share your screen and you code with them and you have to talk that through. Bombed a few of those. And every step along the way, I got a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further until I finally tricked somebody into saying yes to me and taking a chance.
Yeah.
And had a great first year as a contract worker with the first company that I was at. They turned me into a full-time employee. After another year there, I got a better offer from a bigger company, and here I am now 4 years into being in tech, and I work from home. You know, my quality of life and the things I do outside of work are really good. I always tell people that, you know, the worst problems in my life right now are just minor inconveniences, and I'm just enjoying this moment because I know these moments are fleeting, and it's, you know, every one of these moments is temporary, and so I'm just enjoying these good things while I have them.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is just a fun ride.
Yeah, life is good.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest part about breaking into tech?
Breaking into tech.
Interviews?
1,000%.
What's the studying?
No, and even the 4 years of working in the industry right now, the actual job part, I mean, I have challenging days and I have like problems that are given to me where I kind of have to bang my head against the wall at times until I get an answer that comes to me and I find the right solutions. But the road and the path of interviewing and making it through, lots of these tech companies have between 2 to 4 to 5 rounds of interviews that you have to jump through before you even get the job. And as someone that came from a non-traditional background, meaning that I didn't have a degree in computer science, I didn't learn all of the principles of computing before I just started making things. I just started making things because they solved solutions that I had. Like
Is it as traditional as getting a job, like where they typically don't require a degree? Like traditionally, companies would want to see if you had a degree in something. Was it the same getting into that without a degree?
I think with a degree, it would have been easier in that, like I said, when you're a computer science major, the first couple classes that you take before you even build anything, they're teaching you the principles behind it. And a lot of those principles are the things that they'll talk about in interviews. I didn't know any of that. So that's why I say that like the first couple interviews, I just bombed because I didn't know any of the terminology. I didn't know what types of questions were going to be asked. And then when you go into like technical interviews where you actually have to show like how to solve certain problems, I bombed those right away too because I didn't know how those worked either. So the first part is, as a computer science major, you know, you learn all those principles and you get a little bit of a leg up in that regard. The second part is that you also have the opportunity when you're in college to take internships with these big companies where, you know, during the summer you work for a Facebook or Microsoft or whatever, and you get hands-on experience like working with developers and managers and things like that. And having that on a resume is a huge leg up and will get you pushed to the top of the interview, the resume pile for those types of jobs as well. So as somebody coming from, you know, I was freelancing and I have these projects that I can show that I made. I'll talk about them. I'll show you the technologies that I made. But as far as, you know, working with a team of developers, working with clients and things like that, I don't have that. So I had to like really explain my way and almost sell myself in a lot of ways in that way before, like I said, somebody finally said yes.
Yeah, but you can't sell the whole like aspect of actually problem solving live and on the actual interview. That's crazy to me because somebody could interview with us right now and put us together and sell us on them and my managers and us will be like, yeah, they're going to be good, you know, and they could just not work out.
Yeah.
But we weren't able to necessarily like verify.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, they're calling in every Friday and half-assing their phone calls. And
yeah. So that's interesting. And how many interviews did you bomb? How many interviews did you go through?
So from like summer of 2021 to late spring, early summer 2022, I probably filled out 500 applications. I probably had 50 first interviews with recruiters. I'll tell you a funny story. I remember there was one of the first hiring manager phone calls that I went on. Within like 5 minutes of the interview, of talking to me, the guy realized that I wasn't the person for the job and that I was a little out of scope and a little biting off more that I could chew with even just interviewing and applying for this job. And the guy ended up taking an extra 10 minutes just talking to me and giving me tips, telling me not to give up, telling me these are the types of things you should be looking for and these are the types of jobs that you should be looking for. And as he's telling me all this, I get a buzz on my phone, and I look at my phone, and I already got a rejection email from him.
Oh, no.
But he's being so nice to me and giving me all these tips and encouraging me to keep going and to keep trying. And 6 months down the road after that, when I posted that I had gotten like my first job in tech on LinkedIn, he was one of the first people to reach out and tell me congratulations, and
awesome.
I knew I would.
That's better than my experience. I was at US Bank, and I was interviewing with Chase. Somebody that worked there and was killing it referred me. So there was like that I'm in there kind of thing, right? I interviewed with this guy. He asked me to role play, and I used to be one of those, put me in the real situation. I don't like, role playing. This is weird. It's so structured at Chase. And I remember him telling me like a few minutes in, he's like, yeah, we're not going to hire you. He's like, we're not going to hire you. And I remember just like, did he really just say that? Like, and I'm pretty, I guess my ego or whatever, what have you. I was pissed, I was like, how dare this guy, so I really didn't love that. And it's kind of one of those little chips on my shoulders. So you get rejected a million times. I want to ask you, because if anybody's like me, it's really hard to dial in and teach myself anything. It's like, call it ADD, call it just lack of focus or just trying to take on too much. But during your job, personally training, and also going through some other, some personal things, it was a rough little patch there for you. How did you dial in and show up every single day and do what you needed to do?
Well, I think you kind of started to nail the head right there, is that like going through a lot of crappy stuff and being like knocked on your ass and feeling like I was on rock bottom was the start of like lighting that fire inside of me to do everything I can to make it. So I'll elaborate. So like within, I'll say like 2 weeks, I had the girl that I was engaged to, me and her were going through a breakup. We had one last really, really bad fight, and I moved out of our apartment together and moved back into my parents' house. During that time, I was also, because I was going through this bad breakup, I was, getting called into my manager's office as a personal trainer and being told that I'm low performing and that I'm just not selling and I'm not everywhere I'm at performance wise in this job, and that maybe we should move you to part-time and you should start looking for something else to do. So I move out on a Friday. The following Tuesday, my dad passes away. And I just have this like within 5 days, like my whole world just came crashing down from where I thought it was going to be 6 months earlier. From that point on, that like the interviews and getting rejected didn't seem like anything. And I took every no as like just one step closer to a yes. I was trying to find the silver lining in every single thing and just realizing that I wasn't going to stop and I wasn't going to until somebody said yes. And a lot of that like, I mean, sleeping on the couch in my apartment and reading Ryan Holiday books, reading, The Obstacle is the Way every night before I went to sleep, just like set my mind in such of a way that I just was not going to stop. And all the bad things that I was going through were making me the driven person that I needed to be to get the job that I have.
You could have went a different route.
For sure.
A lot of people, when life hits them, they wouldn't stick to the process.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they would have just stuck it out and stayed at their personal training job and perhaps gotten fired and, what have you. But some people could have, gone down the route of just, addictions or alcohol, things like that. You know, so many things.
Giving up. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really admire that you
used that as like that was like my jumping point. And the more, and maybe it's because I've had similar points like that in my life as well. Like my last years as a banker at US Bank, I hated it and I was depressed, and because I had the operations job that I loved.
Yeah.
And that job got taken away from me in a disheartening way. And in the moment that I knew that I wasn't going to be an operations manager anymore, that's when I decided to be a personal trainer and to follow my heart and to do something that I was more passionate about. And that launched me into being a personal trainer. All the heartache that I went through over COVID is what launched me into this tech career that I have now. I kind of used every bad thing that happened to me as kind of the reason why I was going to succeed going forward, instead of looking at it as like, woe is me, you know, things just aren't working out for me, you know. And that's why, like, even now I'm taking these good times as just, I'm appreciating it. You know, every day is a blessing. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. But at the same time, I know it's temporary and I can get knocked on my ass at any time.
I have been on this kick lately that if I wake up, that's win number one. And if my family wakes up and we're all in good health, that's win number two. So every day starts off like, let's freaking go, you know, like this is a win. Today's like, we're off to a good start.
Exactly.
Like I woke up.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's just been, just being super grateful lately. I don't know if it's my age or what it is, but I just appreciate every little thing these days.
Every day that I get to wake up and sign on to a Microsoft Teams call in my pajamas and start working is a good day for me.
Yeah. Love it, man. I got two questions here, and your industry, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is projected Bureau. Thanks for correcting me. It's projected to grow by 25% in the next decade. What tips do you have for someone wanting to be a software engineer?
Study a lot. Don't give up. And one thing that I almost got caught up in that a lot of people do is, in the tech industry, it's called tutorial hell, where you're just following, you know, YouTube videos of how to make one certain thing, or YouTube videos on how to like do one thing, instead of going out and making your own thing. The big leg up that I had over a lot of the people that were self-taught was that I had built things, like I built Barbells' website. I built the app that I made for the iPhone was a tool for my powerlifting clients, because I was a powerlifter, like you mentioned before, and it had 3 little calculators that, you know, you put in the weight that you did and for how many reps, it would tell you what your new 1 rep max is. And it had like RPE calculator, which would help my clients figure out what their rate of perceived exertion was. And then, geez, I don't even remember the third part, but it was like those, and it was a kilo converter for like my clients that worked with kilo plates instead of pound plates. So
yeah,
so like those were the 3 tools on my iPhone app, and one of the coolest moments of my life was seeing, like, on the App Store, my app, and then author Jon Miller.
Yeah. So just start creating.
Make things. Like, try to, like, if you have a problem in your daily life that could be solved with something technical, or making a website for it, or making an app for it, or anything like that, you know, find a problem to solve and solve it. I mean, as simple as that. Start making things, because the more that you try to make something and run into roadblocks and have to fight through it, the better you'll get as a programmer, and the better you'll be able to explain in interviews how to overcome things when you do run into roadblocks.
Yeah, that's powerful. Okay, so on that same note, your industry is supposed to grow by 25%. However, I found that the NVIDIA CEO and other industry insiders pessimistic on the long-term prospects of software engineering jobs, despite what the BLS says, that it's supposed to grow by 25%. Some people probably had that opinion because of AI.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, AI is definitely a big talking point and a big unknown as far as, you know, what's to come and how much of a tool it can be. I think it's smarter to look AI as a tool to make your job easier. And like any new technology or any new disruption in an industry, the early adopters and the people that learn how to use them and utilize them and to make them your friend, that will be the ones that are better off.
Yeah.
So there are already job listings out there for things called prompt engineers, where you're prompting an AI, whether it's like the chatbot or like they have like coding bots where you're prompting the AI, write me the code for the HTML code for a website that has, menu on the left and uses this picture as the main page, and the AI will spit out the code for you. So there's already job listings for prompt engineers where you're prompting the AI what to do, and it solves the problem for you.
Okay. Are you using AI?
I've used it. I've played around with GPT a good little bit. The other thing that makes me think that AI won't steal jobs anytime soon or as quickly as a lot of people make it out to be is that so many big companies move so slowly when it comes to their technology anyways.
Okay.
And so many of them use like legacy software and software that's been intact for 10, 20, 30 years. And a lot of those, the bigger the company, the slower they move when it comes to those types of technology things. And there's always going to be people that behind the scenes that need to maintain that anyways.
Gotcha.
So while I do think it will change technology and tech jobs, I don't think it'll necessarily kill as many as people make it out to be.
Right.
But either way, it's better to be aware of it and to prepare for it than it is to hope that it's never going to get here, because it will.
Right. You know what I've noticed is like there's been so many buzz things and trends and things that have just been happening over the course of the last couple of years, which is, first was like NFTs, and then it was the multiverse, and then it just like dies down.
Bitcoin even, or Bitcoin's up and down. I mean, 20 years ago, everybody thought that 3D movies were going to be the next thing, and that turned out to not be so much. Like everything ebbs and flows. There's going to be things that come and go. There will be something else in 5 years that everybody thinks is going to take everybody's job, or you just have to, have your ear to the ground and be aware of it. But at the same time, not like run for the hills or scream bloody murder if it actually comes and it does change your life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're just gonna have to hit it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to adapt.
Adapt. Yep.
I've adapted to every other bad thing that's happened in my life. I will adapt to the next thing that comes.
Right. Absolutely. So imagine you get to travel back in time to, let's call it 25-year-old Jon Miller.
25-year-old me.
25-year-old me.
Okay. 25-year-old me started working at the bank with you at U.S. Bank.
Yeah. Well, what advice are you giving him? You get just a few minutes with him.
I wouldn't give him any. I would say enjoy the ride.
Yay.
Yeah. Like every decision I made from that point on was the right one at that time. Just enjoy the ride. Everything will be fine. It'll all work out.
We had some good times.
Yeah. And every time that we were going through something rough, I said it'll all work out, and it did.
Yeah. I'm an annoying answer.
Yeah.
It's annoying answering or asking a positive person, like, for advice sometimes. You'll be all right. Either way, you'll be okay.
Either way, it'll be fine.
You'll be fine. All right, so let's talk about the legend, your father. He's had a massive impact on your life. What are 3 of the most valuable lessons he ingrained in you?
Why you got to do this to me, man? Tim Miller, my dad, he taught me how to be able to have a conversation, look anybody in the eye, and be kind to them, and make anybody feel like they're your best friend. That was the number one skill my dad had, was that he could just have a 5-minute conversation with a complete stranger, and next thing you know, their arms around him and they're laughing together.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Thank you.
Like that was the number one thing. The other thing my dad taught me how to do was be flexible. My dad was, at 22, he was a Marine in Vietnam. At 25, he was a boxing promoter making a weekly fight card at the Silver Slipper on the Strip because his dad had passed away, and that's the business that was given to him by his father. At 35, he owned a sporting goods store and ran that business for 10 plus years. When that business failed, he was a bartender, and ended up one of his bartending clients gave him or taught him how to sell flowers, and he sold flowers for landscaping for all the golf courses and hotels in Nevada until he retired. And so like that's definitely a trait I got from my dad, was just be flexible. Don't be afraid to jump to the next thing, things like that. And I don't even know what a third thing was. Like, there's so many good things that he taught me. Hopefully he taught me how to be a good father whenever I'm ready to be.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I made through it without crying.
I had to
proud of myself.
I had to tickle your heartstrings.
Oh, man.
And so A1 stands for the highest of standards of excellence. I just want to know 3 standards you live your life by.
Don't talk down or treat anybody like they're less than you, because we're all equal. That's my first one. Number 2 is don't judge a book by its cover, and there's something you can learn by talking to anybody. And then number 3 is, don't ever give up. If you have a goal, you haven't failed until you've given up. So if you can keep going, you're gonna succeed.
Well, bro, I'm proud of you. I just want to acknowledge you, man. We've grown a lot over the last. I've known you for how long now? A decade? Over a decade for sure.
13 years.
13 years, and I'm just proud of you, man. You've overcome some obstacles. You've, like I said, reinvented yourself. Like, when I think about you, you've reinvented yourself.
Look who's talking. You've come a long way from the hungover kid that I was banging on his window to get him to come to work on a Sunday morning.
Oh, man, I almost got fired at the bank like multiple times, y'all. So
yeah, like you ended up with the bank for that extra 2 or 3 years because of me.
Let's just say I was not designed to be an employee. I'm just not. I can't. I
Especially
I need my own schedule. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge you, man. You've always been kind. You've always uplifted me whenever I've needed you. And so, yeah, bro, thanks for everything that you've done for me. So how can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Jon Miller. Barbells and Briefcases, or we run that Instagram as well. Look for the Barbells and Briefcases podcast, hopefully someday soon. Yeah, you can find me on a golf course somewhere.
Golf course, and then also if you're looking to crack into tech, Jon, he knows a thing or two.
For sure. I love, there were a lot of people that on my journey on the way up that I reached out to that were really helpful and helped give me the right tools. And whenever anybody ever reaches out to me to ask me, what are the steps or what should I try to do, I always give them a roadmap, and I'm so excited to share it.
Yeah. So hit him up. Jon, love you, bro.
Love you too, man.